What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I'm your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanshi, and we are here with a special Thanksgiving episode of Brilliant Minds, Season 2, Episode 9, titled The Firefighter, guest starring Eric Dane as Matthew, who is the firefighter who's dealing with the diagnosis of ALS and the progression of that condition throughout the episode, as well as matching Amick, who plays his wife, Alicia. And we also have Donna Murphy back this episode. So the director of this episode is Charles Randolph-Wright. The writers are Michael Grassi and Daniela Lamas. And y'all already know the OGDP is Stanley Fernandez Jr. So we're going to kind of go through this uh, within our new structure, but it's not necessarily going to be a play by play because this episode is just like, I think the message is more important than what actually happens in this episode. And so, of course, it's only right and appropriate that it was written this way and directed in the way that it was. So, I want to keep y'all. I definitely want y'all to watch and stream all 9 episodes on Thanksgiving or on Black Friday just to get caught up ahead of the mid-season finale, which will be on December 1st. But you know what better way than to go into the holiday than with this episode? So, getting into our segment titled As Seen on TV, we actually did like a previously on Little Moment here. And the big thing that stand out during that is Wolf's dad returning with a brain diagnosis, but then leaving again. Van and his ex, I think her name is Michelle, with the will they, won't they, sneaking around, getting back together type of situation. And then, of course, Sam and Ericka. So our A story is obviously the case. And then we have our B story, which is Sam and Ericka. And then our C story kind of just everybody else. It wasn't necessarily enough to hold an entire storyline, but it really continues on those nuggets and stuff that we've seen before. But with the A story and the B story, we are really looking at just life when you have people facing really tough decisions during a time where the world, or at least in America, it's promoted as like this is time for family and jolly and cheer and togetherness. You have two people, two patients in a space where that's not necessarily the case. And for hospital workers, for those of you who are in healthcare, you already know this. But for those of you who don't know, for us people in healthcare, it is very difficult on the staff when you're put in positions where, an elderly patient doesn't have any kids to either come and get them or even want them. Or when you have people who are estranged from their parents, um, or just down and out, depressed, just dealing with so many different uh internal emotional turmoil as well as physical ailments on top of that. It can be a really rough time. And I think this episode is a reminder to have compassion and to have enough emotional and situational awareness to remember that just because things are great for you doesn't necessarily mean that it's great for everybody around you. So does that mean walk around and not having your own personal joy? Absolutely not. It just simply means that when you're stepping outside of your own bubble, be acutely aware and be present in the individual interactions that you have with other people. That way you can meet them where they are without accidentally putting a foot in your mouth when you realize that they maybe aren't experiencing life the same way that you do. So that's basically the overall message. But we'll start with the B story. And that's mainly because Eric Dane's story as Matthew, um, what he does and how he's characterized in this just rounds out the entire episode. So Sam is here. So Thorne is in the middle of getting everybody to sign up for the hospital potluck when he sees Sam back in the ER. So at this point, Sam is a frequent flyer, but people like Sam. Whenever he's, you know, the medication is working and stuff like that, and his personality really shines through, they love him. But immediately something is going wrong. Like he is there in a dire emergency. And what's happening is he is suffering from liver failure, which ended up progressing into hepatic encephalopathy. So, just based on the liver failure, he ends up getting like extra swelling um in hold on, in his brain. Let me make sure. It's been a while since I had to do medical terminology, but I'm pretty sure encephalopathy is the swelling of the brain and his. And so his is because of liver failure. Now he don't drink, he don't do any of those things. So they're just trying to figure out like what is going on. And so what ended up happening is um he was taking his medications, but the voices would get through every once in a while. And some kids ended up seeing him. And, kids, again, it's the cool thing to pick on people and then inflict the violence. So they ended up jumping him and stuff like that. So instead of going to get seen, he decided to self-medicate, taking some acetaminophen and, just, oh, I'm gonna just, get me some Tylenol, everything will be good. When you overdose on acetaminophen, it affects the liver. This is why I tell you don't be drinking when you're taking acetaminophen. And he's just trying not to be a burden, but ended up causing severe damage. So his life is hanging in the balance. And y'all know that Ericka is so connected to him in a way that honestly it's unprofessional, right? There is an emotional connection here with this character that reminds me of Katherine Heigl's character with Jeffrey Dean Morgan in Grey's Anatomy. And I mean, I hope she don't go off on me trying to marry this man or whatever, but it's just it's unprofessional and it's rooted in emotions. But we already discovered that her birth mother is schizophrenic, and so there's just this whole thing with how she's handling PTSD, with seeing Sam, it bringing up a lot of different triggers in her own personal life. There's a question of if she sees herself going down this path in Sam. So she is desperate, desperate to get him on the transplant list. Because at this point, his liver is shot. And so she goes to Wolf and he empathizes and sympathizes. And so he goes to his medical team. Not only Carol, but he also brings everything up to Josh. And this brings about the conversation about like the combination of privilege and luck when it comes to being a candidate for a transplant. So I meant to look this up before. Let me see. Let me see if this is going to give me the answer that I want. Okay, so what I'm typing is the politics surrounding being a candidate for transplants for minorities in the US. Because that basically ends up becoming this storyline. So here's an article from 2006. It is a scholar link. Disparities in solid organ transplantation for ethnic minorities. Let's see. Racial and ethnic disparities in healthcare extend to specialty fields, including solid organ transplantation. The Diversity and Minority Fields Committee of the American Society of Transplantation sponsored a symposium to examine disparities in transplantation for underserved and minority populations. So, the excess burden of kidney disease in minority populations reflect in part the higher rate of known medical environmental risk factors and for other in organ failure, including genetic predisposition, diet, and lifestyle. So I'm not going to read this entire article, but you can go ahead and look it up. But basically, in Sam's situation, he has no family. There is a history of drug misuse and abuse. He's schizophrenic. He is going in renal failure, and he has full liver failure with hepatic encephalopathy. So the whole thing is like, okay, we give him this organ. One, will he just die anyway? Two, will he go back to the lifestyle that led to this in the first place? And it doesn't matter that it was an accidental overdose. These are all of the factors that are not working in Sam's favor. And this infuriates Ericka to no end. But Dana, you know, she cares about Ericka. Ericka cares about Sam. And even Van and Michelle were in there. They were just having a conversation about like, even when you are fitting like all the things, like, yeah, we're going to be good. We're going to be great. There's always that one thing when you bring it up to the transplant board where they're like, no. And so it was like, even the best pristine patient can get told no. And so then when you look at Sam's situation, it's like, they're not even going to give this a second chance. But Dana goes and actually finds Sam's family. Turns out they didn't abandon him or anything like that. When his schizophrenia started to get out of control and he was refusing medication, the voice in his head was telling him that his family was going to be the ones to harm him. And so, of course, his mom and dad had to make a terrible decision. And then the worst and hardest decision a parent can make is to let a child go. A lot of people might look from the outside looking in like, oh, you took the easy way out, you did this, that, and the third. But like, to let a child go knowing that you gotta live and move on and try to be happy, knowing in the back of your mind that the one you let go may not be living the same exact life, that is a level of emotion and a level of guilt that you will not understand unless you have had to do it. Whether giving your child up for adoption, whether giving it up for somebody else in your family to raise, whether, your child is hooked on drugs or hanging out with the wrong people, and you have to let them go, especially when you have other children in the household, because you have to look out for everybody else. Um, and so while in Sam's storyline and in his life and everything, it was painted as if his family didn't care about him, it ended up being the exact opposite. And he had two other siblings that the family had to care for. But Dana got them out from Ohio and to New York. And the dad was like, listen, we had to walk away from him once because we thought it was the best decision for him. We're not doing that again. So we will rent somewhere out here to make sure that we're taking care of him. When he's discharged from the hospital, we're going to do whatever it is that we need to do. And this ends up kind of being sort of a Thanksgiving miracle for Sam. And while it appears to be the Hail Mary that they need to appeal to the transplant board, it's not enough. And so at this point, it's really about how you take these hard decisions and internalize them and make a plan forward. And not only for Sam's family who are being put back into his life just to be like, he might be dying, but also for Ericka having to sit with, you did the best that you could, and you provided the best care that you could with the best team that you have, and it still wasn't good enough. And you have to be able to sit with those feelings and sit with that emotion, especially if he dies, because this is just gonna be on the heels of the whole situation that happened with the granddaughter from season one in the elevator. So this whole storyline is a test of not only faith, but a test of resolve and really understanding that, for the most part, you are not in control. You're not in control. You cannot have your hands in the outcomes of everything that happens in life because that's just not what life is. It's just not what it's about. And so with that storyline and with Sam, it just marries perfectly with the story of Matthew, who is a patient who's been receiving ongoing care in Bronx General, and his respiratory stats are getting a lot lower. So at this point, ALS is progressing quickly. And we're at the stage where we need to be talking about long term care. We need to be talking about a family care plan. And Matthew has not told his ex wife or his daughter. He has moved into the firehouse. And so the firehouse community has been helping to take care of him, kind of manage his pain and manage the condition and, his mobility and everything like that. But they can only do that, but for so long. And Matthew has been ducking and dodging Carol this whole time, but she called him and was like, you better see me before you leave this hospital today. And so he is just adamant on not letting them go. And Thanksgiving, even during the divorce, him and his wife said, we'll always do Thanksgiving together. We will always come together. And so, because of the way that his ALS is progressing and altering his speech, he's like, okay, I'm not doing Thanksgiving this year. She's gonna want to get back with me. My daughter has one semester of school left. She's gonna want to drop out. I don't need pity. I don't need care. I don't need any of those things. I would rather leave this earth and let them have the last memories of me that they have than to burden them with what I'm dealing with. And so the entire team is just trying to get him to understand you are not a burden to the people that you love. But he's not really seeing it that way. But unfortunately, during an event at the firehouse where he's talking to the kids and he's briefing them and doing everything, and they bring the dog out, um, he had already left a message to Alicia. It was like, hey, not doing Thanksgiving this year. Said our daughter, our love, smooches. Alicia pulls up to the firehouse and she was like, how dare you? Who the hell do you think you are? And when he starts to speak to her, she kind of like stops a little bit. So Wolf is like hurrying up, jumping in, and he's like, hey, we should probably talk about this somewhere else. And she was like, who are you? And he's like, I'm his doctor. Like, there's some things that we need to know. So it ends up coming out in a way that Matthew did not want to come out. And of course, everything that he thought would happen was that she's like, you need to move back in with me. She's thinking about all these arrangements. The daughter looked up all of different things online, even though she's sitting in the doctor's office, like, ma'am, you get off 11D. Um, she's like, cool, I only have one semester left. I can finish that anytime. I'll just drop out and do that later. And everybody's just kind of talking about him like he's not in the room. And this was really his worst nightmare come true. But what I love about the storyline is the other side of it, especially when we get into Carol speaking to the mother and the daughter and just the entire medical team talking to them about their feelings about their father and just kind of being thrust with this news that he's lived with for quite some time. And Alicia's talking to Carol, and she's just like, it's crazy that he's opening up to you because the only reason we're divorced is because he shut down on me. When we got married, he talked all the time. And then 9/11 happened, right? And she's like, I can't even imagine what he went through, but I felt like I could not complain about what I was experiencing with my husband because so many other firefighters' wives, their husbands did not come home. But she was like, even though my husband physically walked through the door, I have not seen my husband since. He didn't talk, he didn't open up, he didn't do anything. And all I ever wanted him was to tell me that he was not okay. That is literally the only reason we are not married. And so for her, finding out once again that he is not okay in the way that she found out, but knowing that he's built all these relationships with his doctors, relationship with his firefighter friends, and everybody else knows what's going on. But the people who still on his will and testament, the people who are his next of kin and power of attorney have no idea what's going on. It's opening up another wound with his ex-wife and his daughter. She's in school for the arts, and she's like, he used to just send me stuff all the time and be like, is this art? Is that art? Even though we didn't have interest and he didn't understand, we spent time in this space because he was just an incredible father. And so, knowing from her point of view, too, how he changed and then looking at how he's trying to manage his ALS on his own, it's just like, if my mama didn't show up when she did, would he have just died and left us here? So they end up going and having Thanksgiving together. And as Matthew was announcing, listen, I get it, can't stay in a firehouse, but I'm not staying with y'all. I found a place to live. Um, Alicia announces, she's like, listen, we got therapy, you're getting therapy, and there's just gonna be a domino effect of assistance. So we got people to help us, and we're gonna help you, and we're just gonna close this loop. And the fire department and everybody's lives who he saved and who he's touched over the years just kind of pooled all their resources to help Alicia and her daughter to make sure that the daughter stays at school, to make sure that Alicia isn't overwhelmed and that she can lean on other people in case she actually does, so that she can come and support Matthew, not out of pity, but out of love, and to continue to try to work on their new normal together. That doesn't make anybody feel like a burden or doesn't make it feel like a chore. And so, um, what I really love about that whole thing is between Sam and Matthew is you have these two people who are so self-reliant and so self-resourceful that they could not see when it was time to actually call out for help. And I've been there before. And when you are just hyper independent, you're the oldest, you're all these different things, there's all of these expectations and everybody leans on you, you forget that you need to lean on people too. And so with both of their stories kind of put in this way, you get to see on both sides of the socioeconomic um realm that we all are just living the same lives. We're going through the same struggles. Money, no money. Black, white. Like it just is what it is. And to see both of those stories in this way, and the conclusion still being allowing other people in to help you, whether it ends like in both of their cases, the outcome is a shorter lifespan. It's no question about it. And so it kind of feels like the man from Grassi all over again, having to be content and accept the fact that death is closer than you would have ever imagined for yourself. How do I live the greatest life between now and then. And not only for them as patients, but again, the medical staff with these feelings yet again, with knowing that there's an expiration date that was moved up on patients that they care about, that they see often. And so with that and the story and stuff that they have going on, Muriel is back from vacation. She was out in Turks and Caicos getting hella massages and just living her best life. But she's still chairing the committee for the holiday gala. And so she's running this whole thing that's going on. But she spots Wolf and Carol in the hallway. Carol tried to let him know ahead of time. And she's like, Mother, we're gonna have Thanksgiving dinner together. We can do it like old time. I'm gonna make your favorite meal. And Wolf, he be trying to be like, Mommy, no. But then she's like, I'm literally gonna make the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows. And he's like, okay, if you insist, don't twist my arm. And so she's out, she's grocery shopping, she comes to his house, and y'all, we have not seen Wolf's house. I cannot even speak. We have not seen Wolf's house really since he came back and found out that his dad was gone. Damn near every fern is dead. Now, ivy as a plant girl, you can kind of see the things around. It ain't dead if it still has roots. The flowers may be wilted, but if the roots are strong, you're gonna get something a lot better. And Muriel knows this. She puts some groceries up on the refrigerator, and her heart is broken as she tries to bring life back into her son's house. Knowing that he let these ferns die when he cares about ferns more than anybody, lets her know the emotional and mental state that her son is in. And so while he's high functioning at work, he's high functioning as a depressed, like in depression right now. Like he is depressed and she knows this. And so he gets back home and he walks in the door and he already seeing like, it's smelling like lemon pledge up in here. Like, is that cotton salt? But also, like, the food is smelling good. And she's like, oh my God, like, I was trying to surprise you and all this stuff. And he's like, what is all this that's going on? She's like, listen, I saw your ferns. I got them all upstairs in the bathroom. Like, the shower was running. We got the humidity, all this stuff. And he was like, they're dead. And so she's just still talking. And she's like, your father, he always did the carving. He always did these things. And he comes over and he stops her. He grabs a knife and he starts carving. And I love this moment between them because this is what she did not want to happen with her son. And knowing that he blamed her for everything, he replaced memories that she did with him with happy memories of the father. And her trying her best to keep Noah from coming back and upending everything. And she's still telling Wolf, like, you need to listen, don't let him destroy you, don't let him take the things away from you, don't let him take your man, don't let him take your joy, don't let him do any of these. And to come back from vacation and see that Noah took not only your child from you, but your adult son is at risk of falling in the same despair as he did 30 years ago. And Muriel may not seem like the fuzziest. She's not, Mary Poppins. She loves her son. And so now everybody else, once again, is left to pick up the pieces that Noah Wolf left behind. But I love this because Wolf grabbing the knife and carving the turkey, it's like he decided to step into that space and create a new tradition with just him and his mom. And so it felt more like a thank you than trying to like keep her from her hysterics of noticing that those ferns were dead, especially because he interrupted the conversation that she was having about the dad. Him coming back into Wolf's life not only affected Wolf, but it affected her too. She loved her husband. It was his idea to pretend to be dead. She was willing to help him through the bipolar. She was doing it. And so I think this moment was really just an acknowledgement from Wolf to his mom and seeing her as a woman, seeing her as a wife, seeing her as somebody with feelings, and just kind of being like, we're going to get through this together. And speaking of together, the potluck is underway, and Carol's family is here at the hospital because, she done working, dealing with everything with Matthew, dealing with everything with Sam and the transplant board. She was trying to appeal for them. Um, they're like, okay, cool, we'll just come to you. And she's there chopping it up with her sister. When Anthony walks in, he was like, Carol, girl, I heard your food is to die for. So I'm here to get my plate. Okay. And me, I'm just here to get all of my to-go plates with aluminum foil because my child is with their mother and it's just me. So your man gotta eat. I'm not cooking nothing. And the sister's like, he's single, you single. 1 + 1 = 2. What are we doing? And I'm also sitting there, Carol. What are we doing? And I had to ask myself, I got to ask myself, what's it gonna be, babe? Um, I hope we don't slow burn. I hope we don't slow burn this too much because I need black women to have whirlwind romances. Like I'm tired of us taking all day, but then we get hurt, and then there's a line, and there's all no. Get a whirlwind, make it hot, make it steamy. They look good, and they look good together. Please let us. So there's that, guys. Brilliant Minds, Season 2, Episode 9, The Firefighter. So we're just going to go ahead and move right into our segment that we call Behind the Lens. We talk about strengths, weaknesses, direction, camera, all the other things that go into making a TV show. First up in our strengths, I like that the story of Matthew was presented as a continuation of a patient that's already been receiving long-term care with the facility instead of as a new patient. It just kind of makes the whole Thanksgivingness of it all feel a lot more grounded because he feels more like a family member to the staff instead of somebody that they're trying to hurry up and treat and take care of so that they can get to um, their holiday plans. And again, I said this earlier, but the messaging and the focus on two of the big stories, especially during this time, it was done so beautifully. I love how they just mimicked and mirrored each other as well. And then one of the touching points too, when Ericka came in and brought Sam's family Thanksgiving food, it's like it was just like that moment was just like you are not forgotten. You are not just room 438. You have names. This is Sam and you are Sam's family. And so just everybody at Bronx General treating the patients and just being there in a way that we as humans in this day and age, we're not. We don't show up for each other the way that we claim. And the level of empathy is just not there at all. It's damn near non-existent. And people just spend a lot of time yapping and being negative and being disgusting and being mean. And this episode, it's not a Thanksgiving episode because it's like, oh, this random episode where they're finally being thankful for things. This is the culmination of a group of healthcare workers and just a group of humans who genuinely care about humanity and care about helping each other from PTSD, from anxiety because your sister died when you were younger, from the stress of potentially having CTE, from mirror touch syndrome, from your dad coming back into your life after 30 years, boy troubles, girl troubles, all these other things. They bring it down to levels that we can all like empathize with, that we all relate to. And so I just love that during the Thanksgiving thing, this is what it is. And hopefully, people watch this episode and when they leave their own Thanksgiving, they can all I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for blah blah blah. Hopefully you continue that and just be better humans. Um, I like that this episode highlighted the transplant issues, as far as like favorable and unfavorable candidates. I think that they shed a little bit of light of just some of the politics that surrounds healthcare workers and really like ties everybody's hands. So it's like no matter what you want and no matter what is best for a patient, sometimes you're just up against a machine that looks at the stats, look at the algorithms, and the answer is still no. And I like that. Like I said earlier, their lifespan has shortened a lot. There's nothing anybody can do. How do we live now? And so I really like that a lot. But of course, loved Muriel and Wolf and just kind of like how that dynamic played back. This was a perfect time for her to come back into this episode. And Wolf needs his mom. He needs his mom. As far as weaknesses with the storyline and direction or anything like that, I have none. This was a really good episode. It's very touching. And so with that, I'm not going to belabor in there. We're going to move on to the next segment titled B-roll. We have speculations and predictions. And first up, Carol and Anthony are going to test the water soon. I have a feeling we need to get there quick. Next, I think that Ericka is going to try to find her real family. I think we're dealing with identity. I think we're dealing with questions. I think we're dealing with help history in a way where she's not gonna get her answers through Sam. She's going to have to do the work on herself. And that's gonna have to come with finding her mom's side of the family. She really needs to figure out who her mom was and how that relates to her currently, her identity. And I think that will really help resolve a lot of things because right now I don't even think she's going to her adoptive family about what she's been dealing with. And with Sam right there in her face and with Dana being able to find his family, I think this is going to launch her down a path of self discovery. And I'm really looking forward to that. So please tell me if that is a thing because it feels like it's necessary and it's time for this character in order to enhance her character. As far as Muriel, oh, okay. So this one is more so of a question, like a speculative question. Will Muriel's assessment on Wolf's place aid in him actually needing help at Hudson Oaks? So everything is still looking like Wolf needs help. And at this point, Carol sees it, and now his mama done seen it, and it's just like, I still have hope that they're going undercover with like again the truth, and the truth is he does need help. But I do feel like it's more so undercover at Hudson Hope. I cannot talk at Hudson Oaks. Um, but damn, I'm like, the last thing, the coffin, the nail in the coffin is gonna be if Josh like randomly comes over to drop off some old sweatshirts and fucking brain books. And then he's like, oh my God, like, I didn't know that you were not handling your breakup that well. You know, maybe you should see somebody and talk about it. Which I would slap him in the face if he does that. But I feel like if the three important people in his life kind of clocks like something is not right, then he might actually had to self-check in, and unfortunately, he got trapped. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know at this point, and I love that for me. I hope y'all love it too. And then moving into our final segment titled Hot Reels, we're talking about hot takes, scene stealers, performer of the week, scenes of the week, all these different things. It's more so like a miscellaneous section, especially for things that jump out at us. So, first and foremost, the performer of the week goes to Eric Dane as Matthew. It was just the right amount of heavy with the right amount of humor. and the right amount of care. And this being his first guest appearing role since announcing his diagnosis in the summer, you can just tell he approached this role and this character as somebody who's already processed what this means for him. Now, in real life, I do believe he's talked to his family and kind of gone through the process of that. But with Matthew being like, oh, I got the disease, it is what it is, my family don't need to know. It just really feels like he put himself, he put himself in this to kind of show you what that looks like, right? Uh-huh. And again, it's just another level of raising awareness without it being like super preachy. And it just felt really real. Everybody's doing like the ice bucket challenge, the ALS challenge, all these other things. Like, it's not a trend. These are people's lives, right? So, okay, you got the cold bucket of ice water on you. Now what? And this felt like a way to bring that conversation back up to get people to be like, to focus on, what next. So I really like that. Scene Stiller, gonna get to Madchen, Amick, and it's not just because they are the guest stars on this, but her scene with Carol talking about what really went wrong with their marriage, and then her scene and her one-on-one with Eric at the house, there was just so much emotion. I don't know if they're friends in real life, but it really felt like somebody who loves this man and they're just trying to be let in. They're tired of being pushed out. Let me love you. Let me care for you. You are deserving of love. You are deserving to receive all of the stuff that you gave to everybody else as a firefighter to get that back and then some in return. And so I just loved her on the screen and the level of emotions that she brought, especially as a spouse who didn't want to be an ex spouse. This is her husband. This man she will love until the end of her days. And so it was just very palpable on screen and it was beautifully directed and beautifully shot. And then last, best line goes to the character Matthew, where he says, allowing myself to be rescued even when I don't want to. So there's this speech in here where he's kind of recording a message to the people that he loves. And this part stuck out for me because, again, allowing myself to be rescued even when I don't want to. When you have people who are constant like caretakers and doing for everybody and constantly there and the first ones on the go and everybody can rely on you and all those other things, you get a cold and you don't say nothing to nobody. You don't ask nobody to drop you off no soup. You don't ask them to drop you off no ginger ale. You don't ask them to do nothing for you. I got it. I'm gonna sweat it out. Oh, I just need to do this. Oh, I just need to do that. And it's also why doctors make the worst patients because they have all this medical knowledge, but then they'll go die of a heart attack because they needed a triple bypass. They was too scared to go check in to the other doctor because they're like, well, I already know what it is. And so a lot of people, again, going back to if you're a caregiver, you're a caretaker, and you're a doctor, if you're the firstborn, especially firstborn daughter, and everything like depends on you, it's very hard to allow yourself to be taken care of. And I really like the line when it says, even when I don't want to. This speaks to like, so me personally, when I'm sick, I don't want nobody around me. I don't want you touching me. I don't want no kisses on the forehead. I don't want you tucking me in. I don't want none of that. Like, I don't know, like something in me is just like, I have like a visceral reaction to like being babied. I hate it. But my wife, during that time, her love language is to baby. And I be sitting there looking like a cat out of water, just being like, just having to hold it in. But then, like, on the other side, I'm like, oh, the soup is sitting right there, and the bowl is there. And she wrote me a little sticky note. And was like, I got you two Tylenols and the extra water and a thingy here. Like, and be like super cute. But when it's happening, I'm like, I feel like I want to crawl out of my skin. Um, and so again, just that line and that final letter, I think was just a letter to everybody who struggles with receiving help and asking for help. It was just, it was an incredible episode. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you watch it. Okay. And that is going to wrap up this episode. Y'all know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments in the comments box below. You got people who only want to listen. Share the Spotify and the Apple Podcast link. You can also follow me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I post film and TV news and updates, as well as my Substack articles and the links to those articles. You can find me on TikTok at Kibachi, where I post short form reviews and recaps of shows that I do not talk about on this platform. You can find me on Twitter on my main Twitter page at Kivanshi. I'm talking about everything under the sun that has to do with film, movies, TV shows I'm currently watching, TV shows from blast from the past, music, all of those things in the world of entertainment. You can also follow my podcast Twitter page at Pod. So there's that. And quick announcement in 2026, your girl will be posting exclusive content on Patreon. Yes, we're going to get some behind the scenes. We're going to be playing some games. We're going to be cooking. We're going to be making drinks. We're going to be doing all the things. You're going to be seeing all the things that I love to do that you don't necessarily get to see me do here when I'm talking about movies and TV shows. You kind of already get to see a little bit of the quirkiness. But yeah, we're going crazy. We're about to be unleashed, unhinged. And the first order of business, the first exclusive, will be coming on Thanksgiving Day. It's only going to be exclusive to YouTube. So it's not going to be on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just for my YouTubers. Where we're testing the waters and we're going to give you content first before we move over s- exclusively to Patreon in 2026. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next episode.